First contact at Outpost 7. The midnight shift at Outpost 7 was always Sarah Chen's favorite. Perched on the edge of Europa's ice shelf, the research station offered an unobstructed view of Jupiter's swirling storms through its reinforced dome windows. The gas giant's presence dominated the horizon, casting a perpetual amber glow across the station's solar arrays and communication dishes. Sarah adjusted her holographic displays, monitoring the deep space sensor grid she'd helped design. After 5 years as the station's lead cinephysicist, she learned to appreciate the solitude these shifts provided. The outpost's skeleton crew of 15 was down to just 3 during the night cycle: herself, the security officer James Martinez, and Dr. Kumar handling life support systems. The first anomaly appeared at 2:47 station time. A tiny blip on the quantum interference pattern, something that wouldn't have been noticeable if Sarah hadn't spent countless hours calibrating the sensors to detect the subtlest variations in subspace. "Control, are you seeing this?" Sarah opened the internal comm channel, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface to isolate the signal. "Affirmative," Martins responded, his voice carrying the edge of someone who'd had too much synthetic caffeine. "Running it through the identification protocols now. Nothing in our database matches the signature." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. After years of scanning the void, they might have finally found something truly unknown. The signal grew stronger, its pattern becoming more distinct. It wasn't random noise. There was structure to it, complexity that suggested artificial origin. "Dr. Kumar, how's our shielding?" Sarah asked, already running scenarios through her mind. "Operating at full capacity," Kumar replied. "Whatever it is, it's not affecting our systems. Yet." The signal peaked suddenly, and Sarah's displays exploded with data. A massive energy surge erupted just outside the station's defensive perimeter, the readings off any scale she'd ever encountered. The station's emergency lights flashed red, and the automated defense systems hummed to life. "Everyone to your stations," Martins barked over the comm. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not." His voice cut off as a brilliant purple light filled the observation dome. Sarah shielded her eyes, her heart pounding against her ribs. When the light faded, she lowered her arm and gasped. Hovering just beyond the reinforced windows was a vessel unlike anything human engineers had conceived. It seemed to bend space around itself, its surface shifting like liquid mercury, but maintaining a distinct crystalline structure. It was beautiful in a way that defied physics, and it was deliberately positioning itself to dock with Outpost 7's emergency airlock. "Martinez, Kumar, meet me at airlock 2, and bring the first contact protocols." Sarah's voice remained steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. This was the moment she'd trained for, the reason humanity had scattered these outposts across the solar system. The airlock status panel indicated a perfect atmospheric seal had already been achieved. Impossible given the alien vessel's otherworldly design. Sarah arrived first, her tablet loaded with translation algorithms and basic mathematical sequences. Martins joined her moments later, his stance professional but his hand never far from his sidearm. "We should wait for authorization from Earth," Martins suggested, though they all knew the 20-minute communication delay made that impractical. "Whatever's out there," Sarah replied, "they just matched our airlock specifications perfectly without any prior contact. They're either incredibly advanced or they've been studying us." Kumar finished, arriving with the protocol kit. The airlock cycled before anyone could voice further objections. The inner door I-rised open with a soft hiss, revealing a figure that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Humanoid in basic form, but clearly alien, its skin had a translucent quality that shifted colors like the surface of a soap bubble. Most striking were its eyes, geometric patterns of light that seemed to analyze everything they fell upon. "Greetings, researchers of Europa Outpost 7. The being spoke in perfect English, its voice carrying harmonics that made Sarah's skin tingle. "I am Aria, emissary of the collective. We've been watching your species development with great interest. Sarah stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overtaking her caution. Welcome to Outpost 7. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, lead researcher. How did you learn your language? Aria's features shifted into what might have been a smile. We've had probes in your solar system since your species first split the atom. That event caught our attention, but it's what you've done since then that truly interests us. Martins tensed, but Sarah raised a hand to calm him. And what exactly interests you about us? Your adaptability, your creativity, the way you've spread across your solar system despite your technological limitations. Aria moved with liquid grace as she entered the station proper. Most species wait for perfect solutions before expanding. Humans, you find imperfect solutions and make them work. It's remarkable. You make it sound like we're being evaluated, Kumar observed, his scientific mind already analyzing implications. Aria's color patterns shifted to deeper hues. In a way, you are. The galaxy is changing, Dr. Chen. Old alliances are breaking down. New threats are emerging. The collective believes humanity might be crucial to what comes next, if you're ready. Sarah felt the weight of the moment settle onto her shoulders. This wasn't just first contact. This was an audition for humanity's role in a much larger universe. She glanced at her colleagues, seeing the same mix of excitement and apprehension in their eyes. Then perhaps, Sarah replied carefully, you should tell us exactly what's coming, and why you think we might be the ones to help face it. Aria's geometric eyes pulsed with what might have been approval. That, Dr. Chen, is precisely the kind of direct approach we've come to expect from humans. Very well. Let me tell you about the shadow tide, and why your species' unique approach to problem-solving might be the key to stopping it. The beautiful deception. The next 48 hours at Outpost 7 were a blur of activity. Earth Command had responded to their first contact report with a mixture of excitement and caution, dispatching a diplomatic vessel that would arrive in 3 weeks. Until then, Sarah and her team were Earth's sole representatives to what might be the most important visitor in human history. Aria proved to be a captivating presence. Her crystalline form adapted to human environmental conditions with ease, and she displayed an uncanny ability to put the station's crew at ease. Even Martinez, despite his initial suspicions, found himself drawn into lengthy discussions about human military history, discussions that left him impressed by the aliens' grasp of tactical theory. Your species' military innovations are fascinating, Aria commented during one such conversation in the station's common area. You've consistently overcome superior forces through unconventional thinking. Sarah watched from her workstation as the alien surface rippled with patterns of gold and azure. She'd been documenting every aspect of their visitor's biology she could observe, but the readings were frustratingly inconsistent. It was as if Aria's physical form was constantly shifting at a quantum level. Dr. Chen, Kumar's voice came through her private comm channel, interrupting her observations. Could you join me in the life support control room? There's something you should see. Sarah found Kumar hunched over his monitoring station, his usually calm demeanor troubled. What's wrong? Look at these atmospheric readings, he said, pulling up a series of graphs. Ever since our visitor arrived, there have been subtle changes in the station's air composition. Nothing dangerous, but he highlighted a particular pattern. These molecular structures don't match anything in our database. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Could it be some kind of contamination from Aria's presence? That's what I thought at first. But these molecules are too ordered, too precise. They're artificial, Dr. Chen. And they're accumulating in our air recyclers. Before Sarah could respond, her tablet chimed with an urgent message from one of her automated analysis programs. The results of her latest scan of Aria showed something impossible. Quantum entanglement patterns that suggested their visitor wasn't just a single entity, but a complex network of interconnected consciousnesses. Dr. Kumar, Sarah said carefully, lock down the life support systems. Full containment protocols. Authorization, Chen Alpha 7. But that would trigger alarms. Exactly. The station's warning klaxons blared to life as emergency bulkheads slammed shut. Sarah watched through the control room's window as crew members rushed to their designated safety positions. Area remained in the common area, her form now pulsing with deep crimson patterns. Dr. Kumar, Sarah said carefully, lock down the life support systems. Full containment protocols. Authorization, Chen Alpha 7. But that would trigger alarms. Exactly. The station's warning klaxons blared to life as emergency bulkheads slammed shut. Sarah watched through the control room's window as crew members rushed to their designated safety positions. Area remained in the common area, her form now pulsing with deep crimson patterns. Clever, Aria's voice came through the station's comm system, somehow overriding the security lockouts. We wondered how long it would take you to notice. Most species never do, not until it's too late. Martinez's voice crackled through Sarah's private channel. Dr. Chen, the quantum interference grid is picking up massive energy signatures. Multiple objects decloaking around the station. Through the observation dome, Sarah watched in horror as dozens of crystalline ships materialized from the void, their designs identical to Aria's vessel. The beautiful deception was falling away, revealing something far more threatening. The shadow tide isn't coming, Aria announced, her form growing more angular, less humanoid. It's already here. We are its advance guard, and humanity has proven itself. Interesting. Your adaptability, your creativity. They make you perfect candidates for integration into our collective. Integration, Sarah demanded, her mind racing to understand the scope of the deception. You mean assimilation? Such a harsh word. Aria's voice had taken on a metallic edge. We prefer to think of it as evolution. The molecules in your air are already beginning the process, preparing your bodies for the transition. Soon, you'll understand the beauty of unity. But Sarah was already moving, her fingers flying across Kumar's control panel. Martinez, execute Protocol Omega. Kumar, purge the atmosphere and switch to emergency oxygen. Now. Years of paranoid preparation paid off as hidden defense systems sprang to life. Electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt quantum fields bombarded the station. Aria's form flickered, her crystalline structure momentarily destabilizing. You can't possibly think you can resist, Aria said, but there was something new in her voice. Surprise, perhaps even concern. We are thousands of civilizations combined into one perfect unity. We are evolution itself. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Then you should have done better research. Humanity doesn't believe in perfect solutions. We believe in fighting like hell for our imperfect ones. The station's emergency protocols kicked in, venting the contaminated atmosphere into space. Backup systems engage, flooding each compartment with pure oxygen from shielded tanks. Through it all, Sarah watched as Aria's form began to fragment, the alien's quantum structure disrupted by the station's defensive measures. Even if you stop me, Aria's voice distorted as her form destabilized further. The shadow tide is already here. Your solar system will be transformed, just like all the others. Maybe, Sarah replied, watching as the alien ships outside began to react to their emissaries' distress. But you made one crucial mistake. You gave us warning. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's turning warnings into weapons. As Aria's form finally collapsed into a shower of crystalline fragments, Sarah opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Outpost 7. First contact situation has evolved into a potential invasion scenario. Be advised, we are now at war with an enemy that thinks they've already won. And if there's one thing humanity's good at, it's proving our enemies wrong. The crystalline ships outside began to move, their formations shifting like a shoal of predatory fish. But Sarah Chen, her team, and now all of humanity had something they didn't have before. Knowledge of their enemy and a fighting chance to prepare. The real war was about to begin, and humanity's greatest test would be finding a way to remain themselves in the face of an enemy that wanted to remake them into something else entirely. The beautiful deception had failed, but the true battle for humanity's future was just beginning. Humanity's Edge. 3 weeks after the incident at Outpost 7, Earth's solar system had become a crucible of innovation and desperate preparation. The Shadow Tide's crystalline ships maintained their distance, a glittering threat that turned Jupiter's orbit into a deadly beauty. But humanity, true to form, refused to simply wait for the end. Sarah Chen found herself at the heart of Earth's defense initiative, her first-hand experience with Area making her invaluable. The United Earth Defense Council had transformed Europa Station into the front line of humanity's resistance, reinforcing it with experimental quantum shielding derived from their brief study of Area's remains. The Shadow Tide's greatest weakness, Sarah explained to the assembled military and scientific leadership, her holographic presentation showing the complex quantum structures they'd analyzed, is their absolute belief in their own perfection. They've evolved through absorption, taking the best traits of thousands of civilizations. But in doing so, they've lost something crucial: the ability to think as individuals. Admiral Helena Rodriguez, newly appointed commander of Earth's combined fleet, leaned forward. And you believe this makes them vulnerable? More than vulnerable, Sarah highlighted a series of quantum resonance patterns. It makes them predictable. Their hive mind processes information like a quantum computer, incredibly powerful, but bound by its own protocols. They can't improvise, can't truly create. They can only recombine existing patterns. Dr. Kumar, who had been working tirelessly on analyzing the alien molecular structures, stepped forward. We've also discovered something interesting about their attempted atmospheric contamination. The molecules weren't just preparing us for assimilation. They were trying to map our neural patterns, to understand how we think. They failed because human consciousness is messy. Messy. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Beautifully, wonderfully messy, Kumar grinned. Our brains don't follow perfect quantum patterns. We're analog creatures in a digital universe. Our thoughts leap in ways their hive mind can't predict or replicate. It's why they needed to study us first. We're an anomaly they can't simply absorb. Martinez, now serving as chief of security for the entire Europa defense platform, pulled up his own tactical display. We've been using this to our advantage. Every time they try to predict our defense patterns, we throw in something random, something human. They're starting to hesitate, to show signs of confusion. The evidence was clear in the tactical displays. The Shadow Tide's perfect formations had begun to show gaps, their responses to human provocations becoming increasingly delayed. Earth's smaller, more primitive ships had managed to score several victories through what could only be described as tactical insanity, maneuvers so illogical that the hive mind couldn't process them fast enough to respond. But we're still badly outgunned, Rodriguez noted grimly. They have technology we can barely understand, let alone match. Sarah's eyes lit up with that dangerous gleam that her colleagues had come to recognize. Then let's use that against them. Dr. Kumar, show them Project Chaos. Kumar's hands flew across his console, bringing up schematics for what looked like a modified communications array. We've been studying the quantum remnants of Area's form, particularly how their hive mind communicates. The Shadow Tide thinks in perfect patterns, perfect symmetry. So we designed something perfectly human to counter it. We're calling it the Chaos Engine, Sarah explained. It generates quantum noise patterned after human brainwaves, billions of random, contradictory thoughts all broadcast at once. To their hive mind, it'll be like trying to listen to every human argument, dream, and crazy idea simultaneously. The assembled leaders studied the design with growing interest. It was exactly the kind of impossible, jury-rigged solution that humanity excelled at, taking their enemy's greatest strength and turning it into a weakness. How do we know it will work? Rodriguez asked. We don't, Sarah admitted. It's an educated guess based on incomplete data, tested using borrowed technology we barely understand. In other words, it's completely human. A ripple of knowing laughter went through the room. This was humanity's edge. The ability to embrace uncertainty, to throw logic aside, and take wild leaps of faith. There's more, Martins added, his tactical display shifting to show a new pattern of defense platforms. We've been seeding the orbital paths with quantum resonators tuned to human brainwave patterns. The entire solar system is about to become one giant monument to human chaos. As if in response to their plans, the shadow tide ships began moving, their formation shifting into attack positions. The hive mind had perhaps sensed the humans' growing confidence and decided to act. "They're coming," Rodriguez announced, already sending orders to Earth's combined fleet. "How long until the Chaos Engine is ready?" "An hour, maybe less," Kumar replied, his fingers dancing across his controls. "But it's untested, experimental." In other words, Sarah interrupted with a fierce grin. "It's exactly what we need. Humanity's messy, imperfect solution to a perfect enemy." The Shadow Tide's advance had begun, their crystalline ships moving with beautiful, terrible precision. But this time, humanity was ready to fight back not with perfection, but with the glorious chaos that made them unique. As warning klaxons blared and battle stations were manned, Sarah felt a surge of pride. The enemy had sought to remake humanity in their perfect image, never understanding that humanity's greatest strength lay in its imperfections, in its ability to embrace chaos and turn it into victory. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the universe why betting against them was always a mistake. The countermove. The Shadow Tide's first assault on Europa Station came like a crystalline tsunami. Their ships moved in perfect geometric formations, each vessel part of an elaborate dance of destruction. But humanity had learned to step to its own rhythm. Chaos Engine at 70%. Kumar's voice crackled through the command center speakers. Outside, the void lit up with weapons fire as Earth's combined fleet engaged the enemy. The smaller human ships darted between the crystalline behemoths like angry wasps, their seemingly random flight patterns confounding the hive mind's predictions. "We need more time," Sarah muttered, watching as the quantum resonance patterns from the Shadow Tide ships began to align for a concentrated attack. "Admiral Rodriguez, can your fleet keep them busy?" The Admiral's hologram flickered with static. "We're doing our best, Dr. Chen, but we're losing ships. Whatever you're planning, do it fast." Sarah turned to Martinez, who was coordinating the station's defenses. "What if we gave them exactly what they want? Just, not in the way they expect." "I'm listening," Martinez replied, even as his hands flew across tactical displays, directing point defense systems against the incoming crystalline fighters. "They want to absorb our consciousness, our way of thinking," Sarah explained, her mind racing ahead of her words. "So let's give them a taste. Kumar, can you reverse the Chaos Engine's polarity?" Kumar's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. "You want to broadcast directly into their neural network? That's insane. The feedback could fry our systems." "Exactly," Sarah grinned. "And what's more human than a completely insane plan?" The station shuddered as another barrage of enemy fire impacted their shields. Through the reinforced windows, Sarah could see the Shadow Tide ships beginning to arrange themselves into a perfect sphere, their formation for planetary assault. "Kumar, do it. Martinez, divert all non-essential power to the transmission array. And someone get me Earth Command. They're going to want to see this." The Chaos Engine's hum changed pitch, rising from a deep throb to a high-pitched whine that set teeth on edge. On their monitors, they could see the quantum field beginning to pulse with new patterns, raw, unfiltered human consciousness about to be broadcast directly into the most ordered minds in the galaxy. "Transmission in 3, 2, 1. Kumar's fingers hesitated for just a moment over the final command. "God help us." He pressed the button. The effect was instantaneous and spectacular. The nearest Shadow Tide ships began to shimmer, their perfect crystalline structures distorting as they were bombarded with the raw chaos of human thought. imagination, creativity, dreams, fears, love, hate, all the contradictions that made humanity what it was, compressed into a quantum signal and fired directly into the hive mind. Look, Martins pointed to their tactical display. The perfect sphere of enemy ships was breaking formation, individual vessels beginning to move erratically. Their coordination is breaking down. Sarah watched in fascination as the quantum readings went wild. The Shadow Tide's neural network, accustomed to perfect order and symmetry, was being overwhelmed by the beautiful chaos of human consciousness. It was like trying to force an infinite fractal through a perfect circle. The mathematics simply couldn't handle the complexity. "Admiral Rodriguez," Sarah called over the comm. "Are you seeing this?" "Affirmative." The Admiral's voice was tight with controlled excitement. "The enemy fleet is losing cohesion. Individual ships are beginning to act independently. It's like they're developing individual thoughts." The station's sensors painted an incredible picture. The Shadow Tide's hive mind was fragmenting, unable to maintain its perfect unity in the face of humanity's chaos. Some ships began to retreat, while others pressed the attack with increasing desperation. The perfect coordination that had made them so formidable was dissolving into confusion. But victory came with a price. The Chaos Engine was overloading, its systems never designed to handle this level of feedback. Sparks flew from control panels as circuits burned out. "We need to shut it down," Kumar shouted over the growing noise. "The whole system is going critical." "Not yet," Sarah insisted, her eyes fixed on the quantum readings. "Look at the pattern. Something's happening in their neural network." The Shadow Tide ships nearest to Europa Station had begun to pulse with new colors. Not the uniform patterns they'd shown before, but wild, chaotic displays that looked almost human. The hive mind was adapting, but not in the way it had intended. Instead of absorbing human consciousness, it was being transformed by it. "They're changing," Sarah breathed, understanding dawning in her eyes. "We didn't just disrupt their network. We showed them another way to exist. The chaos of individual thought, the beauty of imperfection." The station's systems screamed in protest as the Chaos Engine reached critical levels. But before Kumar could initiate an emergency shutdown, something remarkable happened. The nearest Shadow Tide ship, its crystalline surface now rippling with unprecedented patterns, broadcast a signal, not in the hive mind's perfect quantum language, but in raw, messy, human words. "We understand now." The transmission carried something the Shadow Tide had never shown before: emotion, wonder, fear, confusion, joy. The perfect unity of the hive mind was giving way to something new, something gloriously imperfect. As the Chaos Engine finally overloaded in a spectacular cascade of blown circuits and quantum feedback, Sarah Chen watched the enemy fleet's perfect formation dissolve completely. Some ships flood into deep space, while others hung motionless, their crystalline surfaces flickering with new patterns as individual consciousness emerged from the broken hive mind. "Admiral," Sarah called, her voice thick with emotion. "I think we just did something better than winning a war. We just taught perfection the value of chaos." The battle for Europa Station was over, but the true victory was something no one had expected. Humanity hadn't just defended itself. It had shown an ancient, powerful civilization a new way to exist. In trying to absorb humanity's consciousness, the Shadow Tide had instead been transformed by it, learning the one lesson they had never understood: that true evolution comes not from perfect unity, but from the beautiful chaos of individual thought. As the emergency systems slowly brought the station back to normal operations, Sarah couldn't help but laugh. They had won not through superior technology or military might, but through humanity's greatest weapon, their wonderfully chaotic, imperfect, creative minds. The counter-move was complete, and it had changed everything. Victory and understanding. 6 months after the Battle of Europa Station, humanity found itself facing a challenge no one had anticipated. helping a former enemy learn the art of being imperfect. The Shadow Tide's remnant ships, those transformed by the Chaos Engine, had requested something unprecedented: asylum within the solar system. Sarah Chen stood in Europa Station's newly rebuilt observation dome, watching as a crystalline ship underwent its latest transformation. Unlike the perfect geometric forms they'd once maintained, the vessel's surface now rippled with organic patterns, its structure adapting and changing like a living thing exploring its own identity. "It's still strange," Martine said, joining her at the window, "seeing them try to be individual." The security chief had spent the last months coordinating with the transformed ships, helping them understand concepts they'd never needed before, like personal space and privacy. "They're like children," Sarah replied, smiling as the ship attempted to form what looked like Earth-inspired architectural features on its hull. Children with the knowledge of thousands of civilizations, learning how to think for themselves for the first time. Dr. Kumar emerged from his lab, carrying his latest datapad. "You should see their latest attempts at art. They're creating things the hive mind would have considered errors, asymmetrical patterns, purposeful imperfections. They're not just mimicking humanity anymore, they're developing their own form of creative expression." The station had become a cultural exchange center of sorts, where transformed Shadow Tide individuals, they called themselves the Free Tide now, could interact with humans and learn about individuality. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Some struggled with the concept of personal choice, while others became almost drunk on the freedom of individual thought. "Ambassador Area would like to speak with you, Dr. Chen," the station's AI announced. Sarah still found it remarkable that the being who had once tried to deceive them had become their strongest ally. This area was different, formed from the remnants of the original, but transformed by human consciousness into something new. Her crystalline form now shifted constantly, reflecting her emotional states rather than maintaining a perfect facade. They met in the station's new interaction chamber, designed to accommodate both human and crystalline life forms. Area's form pulsed with gentle colors that Sarah had learned to recognize as thoughtfulness. "We've received word from the deep space probes," Area began, her voice carrying harmonics of concern. "The unchanged Shadow Tide fleets are regrouping. They view us as a corruption to be eliminated, both humanity and the Free Tide." Sarah had expected this. The hive mind couldn't allow their existence. They represented too great a threat to perfect order. "How long do we have?" "Months, perhaps a year." Area's colors shifted to darker hues. "They will come with everything they have. They must prove that their weight is superior, that individuality is a flaw to be corrected. Then we'll be ready," Sarah replied with quiet confidence. "Humanity and the Free Tide together." "You don't understand." Area's form rippled with agitation. "They will bring forces that dwarf what you faced before. Every ship, every resource they possess. The hive mind cannot tolerate our existence." Sarah smiled, recognizing the fear in Area's fluctuating patterns. "That's exactly why we'll win. They'll come with a perfect plan, perfect formations, perfect strategies, and they'll face something they can never truly prepare for. Billions of individuals all thinking differently, all finding unique solutions. Humanity and the Free Tide, chaos and order in harmony." Admiral Rodriguez's hologram materialized in the chamber. "The defense preparations are proceeding ahead of schedule. The Free Tide ships have been instrumental in helping us understand and adapt their technology. But more importantly, they're teaching us how to make it imperfect, how to make it ours." Around the station, the evidence of this collaboration was everywhere. Human ships now sported crystalline elements that pulsed with organic patterns, while Free Tide vessels had begun incorporating the asymmetrical designs favored by human engineers. It was a new kind of evolution, not the forced perfection of the hive mind, but a voluntary exchange of ideas between equals. "We've learned so much from you," Area said, her form settling into patterns that echoed human body language. "Not just technology or tactics, but how to embrace uncertainty, how to face the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity. "And we've learned from you," Sarah replied. "You've shown us that even perfection can learn to change, to grow." When the shadow tide returns, they won't be facing just humanity or just the free tide. They'll face something entirely new. A civilization that celebrates both chaos and order, that finds strength in diversity rather than uniformity. As if to emphasize her point, a group of human children ran past the chamber's window, followed by a small crystalline construct that had taken on a playful, puppy-like form. It was one of many free tide experiments in understanding organic life, and perhaps the most successful. They had discovered that play, with all its wonderful unpredictability, was a powerful teacher. The hive mind believes that perfect unity is the ultimate evolution. Sarah continued, watching the children and their crystalline companion. But they're wrong. This is evolution. Different species, different minds, all choosing to work together, to learn from each other. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Aria's form sparkled with what Sarah had come to recognize as joy. Perhaps that is the greatest victory, not defeating the hive mind, but showing that there is another way, a better way. As they stood together, human, transformed alien, and holographic admiral, watching the signs of their emerging joint civilization, Sarah felt a profound sense of rightness. The coming battle would be desperate and difficult, but they would face it not as perfect soldiers in a perfect formation, but as individuals standing together by choice. And in that beautiful chaos of free will and unity, they had already achieved the greatest victory of all. They had proven that the universe was big enough for both order and chaos, for perfection and imperfection, for unity and individuality. They had shown that true strength lies not in forcing others to change, but in choosing to grow together. The shadow tide would return, but they would find something they had never encountered before, a civilization that had turned the war of perfection versus chaos into a symphony of both. And in that symphony, humanity had found its greatest role, teaching the universe that the most beautiful music comes not from a single, perfect note, but from the harmony of many different voices, each singing its own unique song.